If Windows on your computer fails to start, you can guarantee that it will happen at the most inappropriate and inopportune moment. So in this masterclass, I'm going to take you inside Windows Startup, show you how to prevent problems from occurring in the first place, and show you in depth how you can repair things if it all goes horribly wrong. Let's start with the thorny issue of Windows install disks, as you may need one to perform tasks such as repairing Windows Startup, checking the integrity of the operating system files, or reinstalling Windows itself. But PC makers often don't provide the installation disk anymore, and this can leave you feeling very frustrated. But there are ways in which you can get one. If your PC came with a backup image created by the PC maker, then you can copy this to DVD or several DVDs using the software utility that they provide for the job. Alternatively, you can copy it to a USB flash drive called a recovery drive, and I'll show you how to create one of these soon. You can contact the company you bought the PC from and ask them to send you a disk. Some PC makers may level you a small charge for this, and others may not want to send it out at all, but it's always worth asking. If you have a friend with a Windows 8 install disk, you can ask for a copy of theirs. While you may be able to use this to repair Windows Startup, however, there's a very good chance that it will be incompatible with your product key, so if you need to reinstall Windows, you won't be able to do it from that disk. Lastly, if there is a computer fair nearby, then you can very often pick up brand new, shrink-wrapped copies of Windows relatively cheaply, and it's always worth a look. What you should never do though is download a copy of Windows from a file sharing website, as they are commonly loaded with viruses and malware. Probably the most important thing you can do on your Windows 8 computer is to create a recovery drive. But what is a recovery drive? Well, simply put, it's a USB flash drive that you can plug into your computer, and you can start the computer from this flash drive to enter the recovery tools if Windows itself won't start. So let's have a look now at how we create a recovery drive. There are a couple of ways to get to the recovery media creator in Windows 8, one of which is to search for recovery at the start screen or from the search charm, and you'll see create a recovery drive appear in the search results. From the desktop, you can open the settings charm. This will reveal in the top right of your screen a link to the control panel. Once you're in the control panel, you'll want to change the category view here in the top right of its window to either large icons or small icons, and this will reveal a recovery option. Click this. Once you're in the recovery tools, you'll see the first option is to create a recovery drive. Any size USB flash drive can be used as a recovery drive, but you may see an option to copy the recovery partition to the recovery drive as well. And you'll see this if the company that made your PC has included a backup image of Windows on your hard disk, and this can be copied over to the USB flash drive. If you want to copy the recovery partition to the USB flash drive, you'll need a much bigger USB flash drive. I recommend 32 GB or more. Click Next when you're ready, and the system searches for any USB drives you have plugged into the computer. Here you'll see it's found one, and to create the recovery drive, then just click Next. You'll be warned that everything on the drive will be deleted, and when you're happy, click Create. Now it's time for some questions. So how do you access the Windows recovery environment? If you've installed Windows 8 on an older computer, you might be able to press the F8 key on your keyboard when the computer starts. That's after the BIOS information disappears, but before the Windows logo appears. You haven't got long. But if you have a new Windows 8 computer, they start extremely quickly and you probably won't be able to use F8. So you'll have to start your computer either from your Windows 8 installation DVD or from a USB recovery drive. Let's look at how we do those. If you start your PC from the Windows 8 installation DVD, then just click Next at the first screen, and at the Install Now screen you'll see a Repair Your Computer link in the bottom left. Click this to enter the recovery environment. If you start your PC from a USB recovery drive, you'll be taken straight into the Windows recovery environment. And it's here you're going to want to click Troubleshoot, because this is where the main options are. We'll see them here. Now, let's have a look at specific scenarios and when you might use each option. In our first scenario, Windows is just misbehaving. It's just not starting up properly, and you want to try and be able to fix it. You can do this by clicking Advanced Options at the Troubleshoot screen, and here we'll see Startup Repair. Startup Repair is an automated system that tries to fix common and simple problems that stop Windows from starting by resetting things to the way they were when Windows was first installed. It can't fix everything, but it's pretty good at fixing common problems, and you may see it run automatically because if Windows fails to start 3 times, it will automatically load. Let's look at another scenario. In this one, you've recently installed a new piece of software, hardware, or a Windows update has taken place and the computer has become unstable and failed to start immediately or very soon afterwards. In this scenario, it's very likely that the software, hardware driver, or update is causing the problem, and we can roll the entire system back to a point just before that installation took place. To do this, click Advanced Options, and at the next screen you'll see a System Restore link. Now, System Restore will perform this rollback process. When you run System Restore, you'll be shown a list of available restore points, points at which a snapshot of the operating system was kept. Here you'll see there was a critical update done and delivered through Windows Update. It's the only restore point available, and we can select it and click Next to roll back to a point just before that Windows Update took place. This should make the operating system stable once again. It's important to note here that you're going to want to make sure that whatever caused the problem doesn't happen again when you restart your computer. So if it's a piece of software, then don't install it or search online for a Windows 8 compatible version of it. If it's a piece of hardware, don't plug it into the computer or search online for a Windows 8 compatible version. But if it's a Windows update, then it could be reinstalled automatically, so you're going to need to manually disable this. And you can do this by searching for update at the start screen or from the search charm. And in the search results, you want the desktop version of Windows Update, which is the one that doesn't have a cog icon next to it. When Windows Update loads, click on the link here in the center which tells you how many updates are available, and we'll see there's only one update, so it's very easy to see which one caused the problem, and you can hide it and make sure it isn't installed by right clicking on it and selecting Hide Update from the options that appear. Refresh Your PC is a really good option if you think you need to reinstall Windows but you don't want to lose everything on your computer. What Windows 8 does is it includes a backup image of itself, and Refresh will reinstall that backup without affecting any of your user accounts or any of your files or documents. They will all remain perfectly intact. You'll have to reinstall your apps from the Windows Store, and you'll have to reinstall all of your desktop software, but it's a very good way of getting up and running again quickly if other things aren't working. And you can run Refresh simply by clicking Refresh Your PC at the troubleshoot screen. It's worth noting that in some extreme cases, the Windows 8 installation can become so scrambled that the refresh image simply isn't available to you or won't work. In this scenario, if you have a backup image that you've copied onto a USB recovery drive, you can restore that image instead. And when you enter the Windows recovery environment, click the Use a Device link, and in there select the USB drive that you have started your computer from. This will force the refresh system to use the backup image that's on the USB flash drive and not the one that's on the computer's hard drive. Now it's time for some questions. You can find out much more about troubleshooting Windows 8 in depth in my Microsoft Pressbook, Troubleshoot and Optimize Windows 8 Inside Out. I mentioned previously that you can refresh your copy of Windows, which effectively reinstalls the operating system while leaving your user accounts and your files and documents untouched. But when you do this, you still have to reinstall the apps you've downloaded from the Windows Store and all of your desktop programs, and it all needs to be configured. But what if there was a way to refresh or reinstall Windows and have all of those apps, programs and settings already intact? Wouldn't that be great? Well, there are actually two ways to do this, so let's have a look at them. The first way is to create a custom refresh image. This has several advantages in that it can be restored from within Windows 8 itself, and it can be stored on the same disk as your Windows installation. What it won't do is store all of your settings. So when you've restored it, whilst your apps and programs might be there, you will still need to reconfigure a few settings. Let's have a look at how we create a custom refresh image. You can create a custom refresh image from the command prompt, and from the start screen or from the search charm, then search for command, and when command prompt appears in search results, right click on it and select Run as Administrator. When the command prompt window appears, type this command with the Create Image switch. You then need to specify where you want your custom refresh image to be kept. We'll store ours on the C drive, and we'll create a backup folder for it. When you press enter, your custom refresh image that includes all of your installed programs and apps, but not all of your settings, will be saved. A system image backup is different in that it includes all of your apps and programs, but also includes all of your settings, including those for your apps, those for the start screen, and those for the desktop and all of your desktop programs. It can't be stored on the same disk that you have Windows installed on though, and this means that you'll need a second hard disk or a partitioned hard disk to store the backup. It also can't be restored from within Windows. You can only restore it using a recovery drive or the Windows 8 installation DVD. You need Windows PowerShell to be able to create a system image backup, so from the start screen or from the search charm, search for PowerShell, and when it appears in the search results, right click on it and select Run as Administrator. The PowerShell command you want is wbadmin, and this is the format that you use. Here you need to specify the drive letter of the hard disk on which you want your backup stored. And here you specify the drive letter of the hard disk you want to include in the backup. When you're ready to start your backup, press enter. You can also save a system image backup to a network storage location, but this should be one that the PC connects to via a physical network cable, as you won't be able to restore the image over Wi-Fi. When you start your PC from a recovery drive or from the Windows 8 installation DVD, this is the option you want to restore a system image backup, and you'll refresh your PC from your custom refresh image just by pressing the refresh button as per normal. Now it's time for some questions. So let's have a look at some of the other options available in the Windows recovery environment, and we'll begin with Startup Settings. Here there are additional options available to you, and let's look at a couple of scenarios where you might want to use them. Safe mode is used if you think your computer will start, but there's something preventing it from running properly. This could be a faulty hardware driver, or it could be a piece of software. And you want to be able to start the computer so that you can uninstall whatever it is that's causing the problem. You've got three options with safe mode. You have the standard safe mode. If you require access to the internet or to your home network, then you should choose safe mode with networking. And the command prompt is there if you will require additional control. But generally speaking, the standard safe mode will allow you to uninstall software, remove faulty hardware drivers, and repair a malfunctioning Windows installation. If your computer is crashing with the blue screen of death, but it's restarting so quickly that you can't read what the error message is, then you can choose to disable the automatic restart after a system failure. This will make the computer halt on the blue screen so that you can read the error message properly. You just then turn the computer off using the PC's power button and restart it yourself. You can also use the command prompt to give you access to specific tools that can help rescue a malfunctioning or faulty Windows installation. Let's look at some of those commands now. At the command line, the Windows drive letter might not be the same as it is when you're using it on the desktop, so here's a BCD edit command that you can type to tell you what the drive letter is, and you'll see here what the typical result will be. Note the character to the right of BCD edit can be found here on your keyboard. Now it's time for some questions. You might in some extreme cases find that the boot files on your computer have become corrupt, but you can rebuild them, and you do this from within the command prompt in the Windows recovery environment. I'll show you how. This first command makes a backup copy of the boot files on your computer, just in case you need to re-import them later with the import switch. It's just in case something does go wrong. Next, we need to change to the C drive on the computer and into the boot folder. Once in there, we need to change the attributes on the BCD file. This is so that we can work with it. Now we're ready to work with the file, and we can rename it as an old file, and again this is just a backup in case things go wrong. Okay, we're now at the last step, and here we run the bootrec command to rebuild the BCD boot files. If your computer is using the new UEFI firmware and is set to boot using it, then the boot files are managed in a different way, so you can skip most of the commands. You should still export the boot files as a backup, but then you can go straight into the rebuild command. There are some other switches that you can use with the bootrec command that you might find useful. Let's recap how to rebuild the boot files. In really severe cases, you might find that the partition containing the boot information itself is corrupt and needs to be recreated. You can do this, but it is a very technical and complicated process, so you need to be very careful about how you complete it. This first command takes us into the diskpart disk management utility. Now we need to see what drives we've got. We want the last one here. We've got the E drive, the data drive, and we're going to shrink this down slightly and create some space after it. So we select this volume. Now we can shrink it, and we'll shrink it by 500 megabytes because that's a good size for a new system reserve partition. And in the space we've now created, we'll create a new partition of, again, 500 megabytes, which will now fit after that volume 3. And let's have a look. And we can see we've got a new volume 4 here now, but we need to be able to do some things with it before we can make it our new system reserve partition. So we select it, and we need to format it, and we need to give it a drive letter, and the next available drive letter we can see is G, so we'll give it that. We now temporarily exit diskpart. And we want to make sure now that the D drive actually contains our Windows installation, because we need files from this. So this has confirmed it. Now this next command will copy the boot files from the Windows installation over to this new G drive. Now we need to go back into diskpart. and we want to select our new drive, this volume 4, but we'll call it G here because you can select it by its drive letter as well. And we want to make it active. And that's it. We've now created a new system reserved boot partition at the end of our hard disk. Let's recap how to move the system reserved partition. In our last scenario, everything has gone horribly wrong, nothing we've tried so far has worked, and we're faced with reinstalling Windows. But if you have your files and your documents on the same disk as your Windows 8 installation, you don't want to wipe them away, you want to be able to keep them. But you can install Windows in a non-destructive way, and I'll show you how. Once you've selected your language, click the Install Now button. When Windows Setup asks us how we want to install Windows 8, we're not going to tell it to upgrade Windows, we're going to tell it to do a custom straight Windows install. Now here we've got the Windows drive already highlighted here, our Partition 2. You need to be able to be sure that you're installing Windows on the correct disk. Once this installs, your old Windows installation, along with all of your user files, will be in a windows.old folder. Now you'll still need to reinstall all your apps and all your desktop programs, and you'll still need to reconfigure all your settings, but you will at least be able to go into the user folders in this windows.old folder and recover your files, so all isn't lost. Okay, let's see how much you remember. There's much more information on Windows 8 in my books, and more still on the website. You can also keep up to date with the latest help, how-to and troubleshooting articles and videos by following me on Facebook, Twitter and YouTube. I hope you found this masterclass helpful, and I look forward to you joining me next time. But for now, from me, Mike Halsey, thank you for watching.